Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The worldwide death toll from the novel coronavirus has topped 207,000, with around 3 million confirmed cases across the globe. More than a quarter of the deaths have been here in the United States, where the recorded death toll has topped 55,000, but the actual number is believed to be significantly higher. In Europe, Spain, Italy, and France, 3 of the countries worst hit by the pandemic, they are starting to loosen some restrictions as indicators of the coronavirus toll continues to tend downwards. In Spain, children under the age of 14 were allowed outside for the first time in 6 weeks Sunday. Under the relaxed rules, they're allowed to leave home for up to 1 hour per day, with a parent wearing masks. Italy, which has the second highest confirmed death toll after the United States, says manufacturing could restart as soon as next Monday, though schools will remain closed until the fall. Here in the United States, the White House's coronavirus task force coordinator, Dr. Deborah Birx, said Sunday social distancing will likely last through the summer, even as a growing number of states are preparing to reopen parts of the economy. Restaurants and theaters in Georgia will be allowed to reopen starting today, after other businesses started opening their doors in Georgia last week, including massage and tattoo parlors and nail and hair salons. Some parts of Texas are also allowing restaurants to start serving eat-in dinners, as Governor Greg Abbott is expected to announce a further loosening of restrictions for the state today. Colorado announced a new safer at-home policy as elective surgeries and retail businesses with curbside delivery will be allowed to resume. This is Democratic Colorado Governor Jared Polis speaking on CNN Sunday.
We have to make the best informed decisions based on data and science with the information we have. What we know is that what matters a lot more than the date that the stay-at-home ends is what we do going forward and how we have an ongoing, sustainable way, psychologically, economically, and from a health perspective, to have the social distancing we need at workplace, where people recreate, and across the board.
Denver Mayor Michael Hancock, however, extended Denver's stay-at-home order till May 8th, saying more testing and tracing of the coronavirus is needed before reopening. There are over 1,300 confirmed cases of coronavirus in Colorado, with close to 700 reported deaths. Here in New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo said construction and manufacturing in less affected parts of the state may be able to open after May 15th, when the state's lockdown order is set to expire. Meanwhile, Governor Cuomo warns New York will soon have to slash aid to local governments by over $8 billion, while cutting state agency budgets by 10% unless Congress agrees to a bailout. Last week, Senate Republican Majority Leader Mitch McConnell drew outrage from governors around the country when he suggested state governments should declare bankruptcy rather than receive hundreds of billions of dollars in federal aid. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention updated its list of possible symptoms for the novel coronavirus this weekend to include chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and a loss of taste or smell. Doctors around the country are reporting an alarming number of young and middle-aged people infected with COVID-19 have been dying of strokes, including those who barely presented other symptoms of the disease. In Oakland, California, video showing outreach workers for the city's unhoused population pinned to the ground and arrested by police has prompted outrage. The outreach workers, who are themselves unhoused, have been distributing water, food, and supplies to those in need. Police later admitted they thought one of the targeted individuals, a black man, matched the description of a suspect in a local crime. The fallout continues from President Trump's dangerous suggestion last week that injecting disinfectants could help patients sick with COVID-19. Governors and other state officials around the country have reported a spike in phone calls about taking disinfectants after Trump's remarks Thursday. This is Maryland's Republican Governor Larry Hogan speaking on ABC News.
when misinformation comes out, or you just say something that pops in your head, it does send a wrong message. And we had hundreds of calls come into our emergency hotline at our health department asking if it was right to ingest Clorox or alcohol cleaning products, whether that was going to help them fight the virus. So we had to put out that warning to make sure that people were not doing something like that, which would kill people.
Trump attempted to walk back his comments Friday, saying he was being sarcastic. He suggested on Twitter this weekend that he might stop holding daily coronavirus briefings following the recent backlash, saying they're, quote, not worth the time and effort. Meanwhile, the FDA had to issue warnings against people self-medicating with anti-malarial drugs chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine Friday after multiple deaths and poisonings were reported. President Trump has repeatedly touted these drugs, telling Americans to try it. The World Health Organization is cautioning governments against issuing so-called immunity passports, warning there's no evidence people who've recovered from COVID-19 are immune to reinfection. Chile has said, however, it will move forward issuing certificates to people who've recovered from COVID-19, allowing them to resume work. On Saturday, thousands of people took part in a Cancel the Rent car protest around the country. The action was organized by the Party for Socialism and Liberation. This is a protester speaking in Los Angeles.
Democrats and Republicans pass legislation which bail out the banks and not the people. And that's why we're here today. They've been telling us for years, that we don't have the money, that we don't have the power to bail out the people. But somehow, in crisis, when the economy has to shut down, when capitalism has to take a back seat, the workers become the essential class.
Activists have been calling for a moratorium on rents for the duration of the coronavirus crisis as unemployment numbers continue to surge. President Trump signed off on the latest $484 billion coronavirus relief bill Friday, but neither of the relief bills passed so far includes any assistance for people struggling to pay rent. The Congressional Budget Office is projecting unemployment rate in the U.S. will remain high for at least the next 18 months as the U.S. recovers from the pandemic. The unemployment rate is projected to be at 10% at the end of 2021, higher than other times, and a small correction, higher than the Great Recession of 2008, and is expected to be between 14 and, 16% through the fall of this year, though some analyses of the true rate of unemployment put that number much higher. And a small correction from above, there are over 13,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus in Colorado, with close to 700 reported deaths. In Washington state, 111 workers at a Tyson Foods meat processing plant have tested positive for COVID-19. It's the latest in a series of outbreaks which have forced the closure of 15 U.S. meatpacking plants operated by Tyson, Smithfield, and JBS, which have slashed U.S. meat production by at least 25%. Meanwhile, an industry trade group in Delaware says a major poultry processor recently killed 2 million chickens and disposed of their carcasses after labor shortages left it unable to process the birds for the market. John Tyson, chair of the board of Tyson Foods, warned in a full-page ad in several newspapers Sunday, quote, "The food supply chain is breaking." New evidence has surfaced that may help corroborate a claim by a former staffer of Joe Biden who says he sexually assaulted her in 1993. Tara Reid publicly accused Biden just last month, but says she first told her mother and a few others about the incident shortly after it happened. Over the weekend, archival video emerged of Reid's late mother anonymously calling into the Larry King Show on CNN in 1993 and making a reference to what happened to her daughter.
Hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him.
Or she had a story to tell, but out of respect for the person she worked for, she didn't tell it.
That's true.
Tara Reid has confirmed the voice of the caller was her mother, who died in 2016. Joe Biden's campaign has denied Reid's sexual assault claim, calling her allegation untrue. In other news about Joe Biden, progressive organizations, Sunrise Movement, and Justice Democrats are demanding Biden remove Larry Summers as an economic advisor. Larry Summers' legacy is advocating for policies that contributed to the skyrocketing inequality and climate crisis we're living with today, the groups said. Summers previously worked in the Clinton and Obama administrations. He's also been tied to convicted sexual predator and sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. The Biden campaign says Summers is part of an informal network of experts and does not hold a formal position in the campaign. In Texas, the last remaining patient from the mass shooting at an El Paso Walmart last August has died. Guillermo Garcia and his wife were both shot multiple times during the rampage, but his wife survived. Shortly before the massacre, Patrick Cusius published a racist online manifesto echoing President Trump's rhetoric about invasion of immigrants. In Saudi Arabia, renowned human rights advocate Adil Hameed has reportedly died in jail. Hameed co-founded the Saudi Civil and Political Rights Association and was awarded the 2018 Right Livelihood Award. He'd been in prison since 2013 for his activism and had been in a coma after having a stroke earlier this month. Ole Van Ushkel, the executive director of the Right Livelihood Foundation, said, quote, "He's paid the ultimate price for his convictions. We hold Saudi authorities directly responsible for Hameed's death, as they have deliberately denied him access to proper medical care for many months during his imprisonment," unquote. The news comes as Amnesty International reports Saudi Arabia executed 184 people last year, a record for the country. Yemen's facing a new political crisis. On Sunday, separatists in southern Yemen declared self-rule in the port city of Aden and nearby provinces. The separatists have the backing of the United Arab Emirates. The Saudi-backed Yemeni government blasted the move, warning of dangerous and catastrophic consequences. The two factions had been on the same side in the U.S.-backed war against the Houthi rebels. This comes as the United Nations is attempting to secure a nationwide truce in a bid to contain the coronavirus. Brazil's powerful justice minister has resigned, accusing far-right President Jair Bolsonaro of illegally firing the federal police chief. Sergio Moro became the 8th cabinet member and the most high-profile to depart in the 15 months since Bolsonaro took office. Moro once oversaw a vast anti-corruption investigation known as Operation Car Wash and prosecuted former President Lula da Silva for alleged corruption, charges that Lula says were politically motivated and designed to keep him from running for the presidency again. Moro quit on Friday, just hours after Bolsonaro fired the federal police chief who was investigating Bolsonaro's political allies and 2 of his sons. Flavio Bolsonaro is under investigation for corruption and ties to mafia in Rio de Janeiro. Another son, Carlos Bolsonaro, is charged with leading a criminal fake news racket that's made threats against political opponents while spreading defamatory misinformation. This all comes as President Bolsonaro faces widespread criticism for minimizing the dangers of the coronavirus outbreak. The death toll in Brazil has topped 4,000, and hospitals report being overwhelmed with sick patients. In environmental news, new research finds populations of land-dwelling insects around the world have plummeted by about 25% over the last 3 decades. Publishing in the journal Science, German researchers blame the drop in arthropods on a critical loss of habitat driven by urbanization and deforestation. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman.